Well, hey friends and neighbors, this is Chuck out at Sheridan Park Farms. Welcome back to the farm. So today's video is sponsored by EcoFlow. Now before you click off, because this is a sponsored video, there's some important information in here that I think that you really want to hear. A lot of you know I've been involved in emergency services now for a little over 30 years. And in that time, I have seen the devastation and the disruption that natural disasters can cause. I've been deployed to Waveland, Mississippi during Hurricane Katrina in 2005, the coast of North Carolina for Hurricanes Florence and Matthew, and then even as recently as last year here in the mountains of North Carolina whenever we faced Hurricane Helene. There's some important information that I want to share with you today that can potentially save your life, preserve property, and keep you safe during a disaster. So there's some important information here about emergency preparedness that I'd like for you to hear. So hang out with us for a little bit and let me show you what we're talking about. All right, y'all, like I said, I've been deployed to a number of storms over the years: Katrina, Matthew, Florence, even Helene last year. Right now we've got Hurricane Aaron going on. Haven't had to deploy on that yet, but I mean, it's a possibility. And you know, every fall we run into this. Communities across the United States, especially here on the East Coast, run rising. You know, we've just got more and more risk every year of these natural disasters: hurricanes, severe storms, winter storms, widespread blackouts. All that stuff is just becoming more and more common. And I was looking at the news the other day, and on NOAA's, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association's website, their 2025 outlook, they were saying that this season's really expected to be more powerful, bring more storms and more power outages. And I've seen it time and time again. When the grid goes down, you really lose more than just your lights. You know, you can lose food from, you know, refrigerators and freezers going out, communication because cell phones die, your Wi-Fi is down, medical equipment, people that are dependent upon oxygen concentrators and CPAPs and some of those kinds of things. All that stuff's really important, and you don't think about that from day to day whenever, you know, the lights are on and it's what we call in emergency preparedness a blue sky day. And so what I want to talk about is something that I think every family, every homestead, every farm really needs to be thinking about right now as we're getting into hurricane season. And that's, how do you keep the power on when a disaster does strike? And I'm going to share some of my own experiences with outages and how we've coped with it, and why I think this EcoFlow's new Delta 2 Max, their Delta Pro 3 and their Delta Pro Ultra are really some of the best tools that you can get to be prepared for a storm. And I'm going to tell you why I don't think gas generators are always the solution to the problem when the power goes out. So if you've lived through a major storm, you know what I'm talking about. Lots of times gas stations will run out, gas stations lose power, the pumps don't work. You got generators that are sitting idle because there's no fuel. And even if you do have one that's running, the noise and the fumes and the safety makes it really tough to run those. Last year during Helene, Sandra and I had a gas generator that was running right outside of our bedroom window, and I mean, that thing was loud. And it was hard to sleep, hard to rest at night, because there was just this continuous running of this thing. And you know, every year whenever hurricanes and that kind of thing hit, we hear about people that basically lose their lives because they're running a generator inside an enclosed area. They've got it in a basement, they've got it in a garage, and the garage door's closed, and they get carbon monoxide poisoning, and you know, it's a colorless, odorless gas, and it kills people. You know, I've seen it firsthand in our area after a hurricane a couple of years ago. Whenever we were living down in Greensboro, the power was out for a couple of days. We knew families that lost tons of food that they had stored in their refrigerators and their freezer because it spoiled. People didn't have their phones because their phones had died. They couldn't call loved ones. They couldn't get information. They couldn't find out what was going on in the outside world. And for some folks, it was even critical because they couldn't run, like I said, things like oxygen concentrators, CPAP machines, and that kind of thing. And like I said, gas generators can help with that sort of thing, but between fuel shortages and just some of the dangers and the noise and that kind of thing, they're not always the most practical solution that you can have when the power goes out. And so something like this EcoFlow is completely different. These things aren't noisy, fuel burning, toxic fume emitting machines. They're portable power stations. They're silent, they're safe for indoor use, and they're ready to go at any time. So like this Delta 2 Max, it's like having a battery backup for your entire house. It's got 2,048 watt hours of capacity, 2,400 watts of output, and it can run 99% of your essential appliances like your refrigerator, your lights, your Wi-Fi. It can charge your phones, and it can even run critical medical equipment like an oxygen concentrator. So unlike a lot of gas generators, these things are whisper quiet, no emissions. You can literally set it next to your couch and plug it in. It's not going to disturb your pets. It's not going to wake up your sleeping kids. There's no fumes. There's no waiting in line for fuel. Just plug it up and you're ready to go. So this thing charges really, really fast. That's another nice feature of it. It'll charge from 0 to about 100% in an hour from the wall, or you can use things like solar panels. If you've got an EV charger, even pair it with a gas generator. You can charge it up off of a gas generator if you needed to. And it's that kind of flexibility that makes this type of unit so powerful whenever you've got an emergency and the power's gone out. Now this Delta 2 Max is a great solution for most households, small homesteads, that kind of thing. But the EcoFlow has also got some scalable systems for different levels of preparedness. For example, they've got the Delta Pro 3, that's their new flagship item. That thing starts at 4,000 watt hours and can expand up to 48,000 watt hours with enough power to run all the essentials for multiple days. And with 4,000 watts of output, you can run pretty much everything in your house, plus it's ultra quiet. Then there's the Delta Pro Ultra. This is the whole home backup system that they've got with an expandable capacity up to 90,000 kilowatt hours and an output of 21.6 kilowatts. It can power an entire household, including 240 appliances like your central heat and air, well pumps. It's even got an auto switchover, so when the power cuts out, it kicks in within 20 milliseconds, fast enough that most devices won't even blink. So whether you need just a few hours of backup or you need weeks of reliable power, EcoFlow's got a solution that's going to fit and is going to work for you. Now don't get me wrong, gas generators have still got a place. I own a couple of them. We've got one that we take with us to the markets that we run our market trailer off of. I've got one that I keep up here in the shop so that if the power does go down and we need to recharge our portable units like this, we can recharge them. We can pull it down to the house if we need to. Don't like to, but if we need to, it will work. But here's the truth of the matter. On a gas generator, during a disaster, fuel shortages are not uncommon. Filling stations run out of fuel, roads may be down, supply chains are down, the fuel can't actually get to the community where it needs to be. The power's out, the pumps aren't working, there's been a run on fuel, you just can't get any because folks are sitting in line waiting to get fuel. So fuel shortages can be a real problem if you're trying to run everything on a gas generator. Like I said a while ago, they're loud, they give off carbon monoxide, so it can make them actually not only unsafe but deadly if you're using them indoors. So if you're ever using a gas generator, do not put that thing in a garage or in a basement. It needs to be outside where it's got ventilation and you're not putting CO2 in your house. And then you got maintenance and setup. Whenever the power goes out, you got to get it started, you got to get it running. And if you've had ethanol fuel in that thing, it'll varnish the carburetors, they won't run right. You need to change oil, change filters and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of maintenance and a lot of issues around gas generators. Something like this EcoFlow fills in those gaps. It don't require any fuel, don't give off any fumes, there's no real hassle. And if you already own a generator, it can pair beautifully together. And EcoFlow can handle your indoor needs immediately, while a generator may run your outside stuff whenever you got fuel available. You really can kind of get the best of both worlds. But this is the key to making sure that you've got good power, clean power inside your home that's going to run your refrigerator, your Wi-Fi, your medical devices, all those essentials. So if a disaster strikes, what are we going to be plugging up? So one of the first things we're going to plug in the house is going to be our refrigerator. We've got hundreds of dollars of food stored in our refrigerator in the house. We've got a side-by-side with a freezer in there. That's where we keep a lot of our frozen meats, stuff that we've raised here on the farm, and we certainly don't want to lose that. So we're going to make sure that our fridge is plugged in. We're going to make sure that our Wi-Fi and our phones are charged up so that we can communicate. If we have an emergency here on the farm, we need to summons help, we need to have a phone that we can use. Wi-Fi so that we can stay connected and watch weather and other community, forums and that kind of thing, so that we know what's going on. If the disaster is expanding, we know where help is, that kind of thing. It's important that you've got that communication and that you've got a way to be connected to the outside world. We're going to make sure that our lights are on so that we're not stumbling around in the dark, and so that we're comfortable and that we know what's going on, and it's just try to maintain some sense of normalcy. And then small appliances, stuff like coffee makers, toasters, small space heaters during the, if it's cold weather and that kind of thing. So to be able to power those devices inside is key to safety, security, communication, and comfort. So being prepared in an emergency and having stuff that will power your equipment, power your house, and that kind of thing, this is not just nice to have stuff. It's something every family should be thinking about right now. I've seen folks that have gotten themselves in a lot of trouble because they didn't have a simple backup system that they could keep just the essentials running, and they had to leave their home and search out shelters and that kind of thing, so they're away from their pets and their belongings and their homes and that kind of thing. So just having this stuff, it's not just a nice to have. It really is important that you've got this type of stuff and that you're prepared in an emergency. And the truth of the matter is, power outages aren't just convenient, they can be dangerous, especially if you're dependent upon life-sustaining devices. You need to be able to communicate. If you have an emergency at home, you need to be able to reach out and dial 911 and that kind of thing. You need to be able to charge your phones. Lots of folks don't have landlines anymore. Sometimes in a disaster, even the landlines are down, so you got to have a cell phone. So right now, EcoFlow is running a disaster preparedness campaign. They're doing it this fall to help more families get storm ready with activations, care programs, and seasonal offers, and it's the perfect time to take proactive steps and be ready for an emergency. So if you've been thinking about backup power, don't wait till it's too late. EcoFlow gives you less waiting, more safety, storm-ready backup power when you need it the most. So we've got some links in the description down below. They're running some specials through September the 30th. So check those out, and I hope that you'll consider this. Make sure that you're taking care of your family and you're prepared whenever a disaster hits. Like we always say, please keep us in your prayers. May God bless you and your families. We'll see you on the next video. Thanks.